This session will be recorded and made available on demand on the BYP Network conference site. I will now hand over to Risana Zitha, Head of Investment Banking at Africa at Renaissance Capital. Welcome, Risana. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Ruth, and good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for having me here today. I'm really excited to be here to share my thoughts on collaborative leadership. Collaborative leadership is sort of a critical ingredient for high-performing teams in this current environment, which is volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous, what people term a VUCA world. In particular, we obviously have seen what COVID has done to our specific lives and also in general, the disruptions of technology. So I'm going to use this session to really talk about 3 points, which based on my own experiences, which I think are key ingredients for success as a collaborative leader. I think the first one is seek out diverse experiences. The second point is create what is termed psychologically safe spaces. And the third point is encourage curiosity. So I'll take each in turn. And at the end of the session, hopefully, we can discuss all the points through a Q&A session. So the first one, in terms of seeking diverse experiences, it's really critical to surround yourself by people and experiences that bring different dimensions to your own current experience. It's sort of very easy to find people who think in a similar way to you and to feel comfortable in that environment, but that reinforces bad outcomes, in my view. So in this instance, I'm talking about more than race and gender in terms of diversity and inclusion. I think it's just a wider set of relationships and experiences and expertise that make you a much better leader. If I pick up on a concept by Herminia Ibarra, she's a professor at London Business School, she talks about this concept of outside. And here, you, as a leader, she wants you to go out there and gain external knowledge by leveraging your network, sort of experiment with new experiences, and then use that to consolidate your own knowledge and experience and to create a new sense of purpose at work. And that kind of leader brings about the ability to change and drive collaboration. But I think it's also important as you go and seek out these experiences to really look out for ways in which you allow yourself to change, meaning you need to change your mindset to have what Carol Dweck calls a growth mindset. And this is somebody who's basically prepared to learn from your mistakes and having some feedback mechanism that enables you to alter your strategy. And both in your own personal life and how you interact with your teams, if you create that kind of mindset, you'll be constantly learning and changing. And collaboration, by its very definition, because you're going to be bringing different perspectives, can be a messy process. But I think if people are willing to learn and grow, then things become smoother. And I've tried to do that in my personal life. I've been fortunate in that I've lived in different countries and worked in different environments. But even if you don't travel very far from your own immediate space, try find opportunities in your environment to get a diverse experience. I think the second concept, which is important, is creating what is termed psychologically safe spaces. And the starting point, and sort of picking up on the theme of this whole conversation, is that command and control is dead. It works in certain circumstances, but a very interesting article that I read by Charles Duhigg titled "What Google Learned from the Quest to Build a Perfect Team" talks about behaviors that drive high-performing teams, and he finds that in addition to goal setting and sort of creating a culture of dependability, one of the most important factors in driving great teams. What's the psychologically safe space? And what does this mean? It's basically a space that entails risk-taking and enabling everyone to contribute without feeling or having the fear of ridicule or rebuke. Again, this is a necessary condition for team members to be able to disclose information, to challenge each other, and to achieve better decisions. And for me personally, let me give you a quick example. At one point when I became a vice president and I was studying on my sort of leadership path, I would call it, I was running a small team. I was very focused on executing instructions that were being given to me. And essentially, it meant that I left very little space for engagement. I just was somebody who took information, structured what I thought my leadership team wanted, and asked my junior team to sort of execute. And sometimes I'd create a presentation, send it to my senior team, and then that would all be changed. I then started working with some senior members of my team who first took the position that they wanted us to sit down as a team, discuss what they want to achieve in the client meeting, and then everybody exchanges ideas as to, okay, what is the sort of content that needs to go in there and what kind of work that needs to happen. Everybody is given an opportunity to discuss and contribute, and no comment was considered stupid. And I think that enabled all of us to sort of have ownership of the work. And those were some of the best work experiences that I've had, and I've tried to use that in my own personal working style with the teams I work with. So it's important to create an environment that's good for risk-taking, for sharing of ideas without fear, and obviously recognizing that, yes, mistakes will happen, but it's all about how you learn and grow from them. I think the third point is encouraging curiosity. Again, you've heard the term curiosity killed the cat, but let's not forget that it's satisfaction that brought it back. And I think the key issue I've found is the ability to create these safe spaces I talked about and to encourage people to be curious is heavily influenced by cultural norms. And so I've found personally growing up in a culture where you don't always talk back to authority, people find it hard to be curious. And I think it's okay to find a way to really respectfully change the way you think about things and start to be curious and inquire about what's happening when you work on a project. So when you start about something, ask questions. When you have an opinion, advocate for a position, but also leave yourself the space to debate with people, to take different contributions into consideration, and also to allow your opinion to change along the way. I think for me, this context is very important in how I've balanced input from people. And as you work with teams, you will realize that there'll be some team members that tend to contribute more than others. And it's the key to collaboration is finding a way to have the team members who don't contribute as much provide their own input. And I think that for me is critical in how we create this concept of a shared work environment that leads to high-performing teams. So I think one of the critical elements here, obviously, there are technology platforms that people can use to enhance collaboration, and increasingly you're seeing that using these technology platforms, you can get people that are a lot more shy to contribute in different ways than people that are naturally extroverts. So in conclusion, I think being a collaborative leader is about linking the concept of diverse experiences, psychological safety, and curiosity on the one hand to creating a vision, processes, and driving people on the other. And I think the ability to combine those two effectively leads to better collaboration. Frankly, you will all have your own different personal experiences. There is no unique approach to this, but the framework can be applied in everyday interactions. And leadership is not only about large groups, it's also about your engagement with your immediate community. And as we rightfully started off, authoritarian leadership breeds fear. And that's the thing we discussed in terms of the title, and collaboration breaks this down. So with that, I will open it up to Q&A. Thank you. Ruth, just to confirm, I do not see any questions on the screen. So just wanted to confirm if there's any Q&A.
Risana. Yes, so please look in the session chat. We do have some questions. I believe Louise Dira has said, how can you start building psychological safety if you are not the senior leader, like in project groups?
Okay. Thank you, Louise. I think so first, the starting point is this concept is not a concept that you should try experiment with once you have a view that you've reached a leadership position. I think these are things that you need to start playing with in your daily interactions with people, because you'll become better at doing it and engaging with larger groups. So you could be working on a homework assignment. You could be working on a project with another colleague. It's really starting to create that environment where you are opening yourselves up to listen to other people, and trusting that they will also listen to what you're saying, so that when you get an opportunity to run a bigger team, it comes as second nature. Jing Shu. So I guess what you're saying is you like to, if I get your question correctly, investment banking is a very competitive environment. You don't want to ask questions if you're going to risk seeming incompetent, and people's perspectives impact your career. So I'm summarizing two questions that you have, Jingshu. So number one, generally speaking, yes, people do use what you say to analyze and come up with a view of who you are. But generally speaking, if you have done sufficient work and you have the data to back up what you want to say, I would encourage you to take some risk and speak up. In some circumstances, yes, it will be uncomfortable, and people may say, that was a stupid thing you said, but one day you will say something smart. Now, clearly, you need to be able to pick the moments, and you will get to learn the team that you work with. So I'll give you an example. So when I started off, most of the times when I gave opinions was really around my associates and VP, because whilst they were senior to me, they were not my managing director bosses. Over time, what I started to realize is that if my managing director said, does anybody have an opinion? And I'm the one closest to the numbers and I have an opinion, I should say something. Because if something happens down the line, you can kick yourself and say, well, I knew that I should have raised that point. And of course, it's taking risks, but if you know the numbers and you're comfortable and you can say, on the basis of this assumption, this is what I would like to say, then I would encourage you to do so. I do agree with you that you need to be well researched and have data to speak up, but don't be afraid to take some risks. Okay, what is your top tip for situations where you have a cohort of leaders with different leadership styles? And what other challenges or opportunities do you see arising from co-leadership? So I think the most difficult thing about working for a group of leaders with different styles is working up the balance of how do you meet their requirements from a sort of what they need perspective, And I think the most important thing in a situation like that is going all the way back and coming up with a common fact pattern, creating a framework where you can get clearly what their objectives are and trying to balance the two, and over communicating. I find that if I'm working for two leaders, I over communicate. I try copy them on everything at the same time and lay out a clear action plan. This is what I'm going to be doing. Is this consistent with what you're looking for? What else should I be adding? I do think, I mean, clearly the opportunities of working for two co-leaders is that you tend to have, especially if it's a multi-divisional project, you tend to increase the scope of people perceiving you as a successful person if you do well. Of course, it comes with a lot more risk, and it comes with a lot more stakeholder management skills, in particular if the two leaders are competing internally for the position or for the attention of their particular leaders. You have to just learn to over communicate, create a framework which will have a common fact base for which then enables you to do your work. There is an interesting question here on if you work in a super competitive environment and people's perspectives on you and how they impact your career prospects. So, and in particular linked to investment banking. So one, in general, investment banking is a very competitive environment. I think, frankly, all work environments to some extent are very competitive. Having said that, my view is a team beats an individual every single time. And how you work out the balance between being very competitive, but also prioritizing contribution to the team, I think matters more in the long run than people perceiving you as just being a superstar. I think if you are perceived as being somebody who works hard, but also contributes to the success of the team, you will probably end up succeeding a lot more in your career. So how shall an ambitious and career-driven female seek mentorship without causing gossip in the office? And good luck with your upcoming interviews. So I think, Xingju, there are two ways to do this. The first is clearly, to the extent there are formal mentorship programs within your institution. That's one way of doing it. The other, and I think for me this has worked quite well, is that I've tried to find mentors not only within my department, but across different divisions, both male and female, and people who I really value their work and contribution to the firm. But I also try identify the people I've worked with who've said, wow, you're really good at what you do, and then create a framework of what it means to be a mentor. Talk to them about, can I come to you for guidance once in a while, cup of coffee, to talk about how I navigate the institution, how I do better at my work. This is the kind of feedback I'm getting from my colleagues. What should I do to improve on that? And so I think, provided you create a proper framework, there shouldn't be cause for gossip in the office. What is the differentiating factor which enabled you to progress whilst pushing a collaborative leadership style? So I think, the first point was all around, in addition to working hard, was I really built myself a network of friends and supporters that went beyond my immediate work environment and were multicultural in nature. So, my history is that I come from South Africa, grew up in South Africa during a particular environment in the country. And so I had to get out of that comfort zone when I went to the US as a student and learn how to build friends across multicultural lines. And then used people's advice to figure out how do I then succeed in a certain environment. So when I was an intern in New York, beyond working hard, I constantly was trying to figure out what must I be doing to succeed as an intern, and identifying what defines a good analyst, as an example. When I was a vice president, I'd set myself goals as, okay, what defines a good director? How do I then get mentors around me who can help guide me to achieve that goal? And at the same time, and very importantly, it's how do I educate and bring my colleagues, my junior colleagues, along with me on this ride? Because support does not only come from the top, it comes from the bottom. And in a lot of institutions, when people ask, who should we promote? Who should we think about moving forward? They will not only ask your colleagues and your senior peers, they'll also ask your colleagues that are a lot more junior to you. And you need to learn to develop talent, to work constructively with people, and really to learn how to champion people's causes. Because the other thing about being a leader is you also have to learn when to get involved to help other people succeed.
Thank you so much, Risana. I did see one that just came through. I don't know if you have a chance to answer that. But
sure. Which one? Is that what was the biggest learning point during your progression to become a collaborative leader? A very hard point to learn, but failure is okay. And I think we're all afraid of failure. I think anyone who says they've gotten to where they've gotten to without taking some knocks along the way will not be telling the truth. I think we've all failed in some different way or form. It's basically how you react to that failure. I think part of learning to advance is building the right networks around you. So obviously there's your family, there's your friend, and then there are these other diverse networks that I talk about, that some people do things differently to you. So I know for a fact that there are friends of mine who are in completely different industries to me, who take a different perspective to life. And when I go talk to them about what I think is a failure, actually they put things in a different perspective, and I look at it and say, oh, okay, it's actually okay. It's not a failure. I can recover from this. So I think for me, that's the biggest learning point. And I'd continue to encourage people to take some risks. As I said, collaboration is a messy affair, but just follow those points, immerse yourself in diversity, work out how to be, you yourself can be a champion of a psychologically safe space. And some people may not subscribe to it day one, but one day you will see that it will work in your favor. And 3, be curious.
Amazing. Thank you so much. I love that point, take risks and prosper. I think that's what I really got from it. So yeah, thank you so much, Risana. Attendees that are still watching, please do thank Risana for his time. He has been amazing. We will be leaving it there. So please do, head to main stage for closing remarks by our founder, Kike Onowinde. And yes, I hope you had a great time at the conference. It's been a jam-packed day. And yeah, please do connect with Risana as well. I'm sure he'll be happy to follow up with some of you if he has time. I know he's very busy indeed. But yeah, thank you so much, Risana, and take care.
Thank you, everyone. It's been an honor being here. Thank you for your time.